Hi friends, today I had this great opportunity where I got to explain about the topic of diversity to my group members, and it was a really educational moment for me because I had to kind of really think about and explain the topic uh, at a very, I guess, basic level, and I don't mean that in an insulting way at all. I just mean I had to teach it to people who really never was exposed, had any interest, or didn't really have an understanding and never felt a need to want to understand. Um, and at least for me, diversity has always been a topic that I'm very passionate about. Uh, I guess you could say because of the background I had with it, whether it was my own personal experience both in the States or when I moved here into Japan 5 years ago, and also because of just the environment I was exposed to both in education and in my social groups, where I would get to have conversations, deep conversations in regards to the topic. And there was also a lot of social conversations going on all the time, especially in the States. So I think coming from that kind of environment, uh, it was just mind baffling initially for me, trying to understand what it means to not understand at all what diversity and inclusion is. And I guess I had a little buffer period in between my current experience at work and my company now and when I was living in the States, because when I moved 5 years ago, I was in a previous Japanese company. It was very modern for a Japanese company, in my opinion. And it was definitely much more, I guess, educated in regards to diversity and inclusion, I think. And yet, it wasn't. And I think that was part of the difficulty because part of my work in HR was to promote diversity and inclusion and try to kind of educate and create materials. But firstly, there was an issue that the company was just so big, too many people. And the other issue was that there was just the spectrum of people in regards to their understanding and exposure to diversity and inclusion was just so broad that it was kind of difficult to find a way to communicate the topic without having those who are, exposed to the most recent conversations and debates going around the, the topic of diversity and inclusion around the world, uh, feeling that what we're trying to do isn't enough, that it's not fast enough, and if anything, there's a lot of disappointment in almost how slow or low, I guess, in level it is. While on the other hand, you have people who just never have ever gotten any exposure or bothered to think about or ever felt the need to want to learn, who still think what we're creating is just they don't understand it, or they may understand it but they just can't relate it to their own life, or can't really truly connect to their own values. And they know that it's important and it's not like they don't want to do it, but there's no urgency because there's no way to apply it to their surroundings to some extent. um, at least for the topic I was trying to promote within diversity inclusion, which was more towards differences in nationality and background rather than gender equality or whatnot. But anyways, I got to have that experience, and I think that was a buffer period for me, and so I could not understand what it was like to not understand diversity. And I think I was still really kind of a little bit oversensitive in regards to the topic of diversity, I think. So I think I may have lacked some patience, or uh, I think my wordings may have been a little harsh for people who just don't know the topic, in which case uh, it could just, the way I would try to promote or push the topic may turn people off to it, if anything, because if your first exposure to something is that you're doing it wrong and you know whatnot, I don't think it's the best way to get people on board. Anyways, because I had that previous experience, I think when I joined this company, I guess from the first day, I kind of just realized the gap. And I felt that if I tried to care, at least the way I used to care about the topic, or at least, and what I'm saying is not that I'm not caring, but like the way I approached it, I think I would just been too stressed, or just my brain probably would have exploded because of the difference in understanding of the topic than I ever was used to. Um, but just being patient and listening and observing thus far, I think really helped me in being able to better understand what it means to not know the topic, to not have really ever been exposed or felt the need to understand the topic. I mean, honestly, even now, there's no real need to understand diversity in the sense of different nationalities, because there really isn't any other nationalities in the company. So I think that it's still really difficult, but at least today, the reason why I got to kind of bring up the topic and create the presentation was because my group members gave me an opportunity to discuss gender equality, because there's definitely a bit of an issue there within the company, and I kind of felt it, and so I spoke up a little bit, and they decided that I could go ahead and create a presentation for them to educate them. And I was really happy that they were willing to let me do that and listen. So I went ahead and did it and created the presentation, and the making of it was what was so educational for me, because I was just trying to figure out what are the basic core concepts that I could expose my group members to. I'm not even going to try to make them, get them to take action, because I think the point of taking action, the best way of taking action is with understanding regarding why you're taking the action. And not that I'm not gonna have them take action, but I, at least today's presentation as a first step, I just wanted them to expose and get them to work on realizing that they had biases and unconscious biases. I thought that would be a great step. And the way I tried to also present the material, I tried to focus not on focusing on the issues and how they're thinking wrong or looking at things wrong, or why they shouldn't do the way do things the way they used to, or speak the way they used to. But I tried to approach the topic more in the way of getting them to find interest in their own unconscious biases, uh, and when they discover it, and try to get their interest to understand their flaws. Well, it's not okay. Maybe is it a flaw? Is it okay to call it a flaw? I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is get them to realize and learn about the topic of unconscious bias, uh, not through attacking them, but through genuine curiosity and interest, and allow them to kind of begin building and understanding from there. And there's so many news and topics online and outside that they will get exposed to sooner or later through this process, I think. So I don't feel the need to kind of push it all on them in the first presentation I had. Uh, so for me, trying to think about that and creating a presentation that, again, teaches them from a very different angle of curiosity rather than attack, and also approaching it through materials and examples that seem very, very basic, but but realizing that it's not for many people, and kind of approaching it in a positive manner, I think was eye-opening for me and for them. And I was really happy that they got curious and that they asked questions and they were taking notes, and seeing that made me really happy because I knew I could probably build upon that curiosity from now on, and I was able to capture their interest so that I could get them to develop more and more. And honestly, I think the approach I made this time was appropriate because I knew the people and the audience I was teaching to, and at least the group members, my group members, are kind at heart. So I think this very positive approach, I think, was appropriate, because I felt that there wasn't as much of an urgency, at least within the culture of the company I'm in. Maybe if I was in a different company, a different culture where there were a lot more issues or there was a lot more diversity, so there may have been more urgency to kind of rush the education, maybe I would have approached it differently, and kind of had a little bit more to my presentation. But this time around, I felt that it was okay. It's kind of like teaching a child how to gain interest in something, and yeah, hopefully that will become the seed for them to develop into better people. And I don't mean teaching to a child in a condescending way or anything. I think it's important to be able to teach very simply and basic, because it kind of breaks down bigger topics into key points, and it's also very educational for the educator, I guess, because it kind of forces you to relook at what's important. So that experience today was really, at least for me, I felt it was positive, and I'm really happy about it, and I'm looking forward to kind of building on this into the future. But yeah, that was my thoughts for the day and experience, and yeah, I'll catch you guys up again another time. Thanks for listening. Ciao.